Hello, good morning, and welcome to today's webinar for Ledgeview CRM General User Group. My name is Christina Felchlin, Support Manager at Ledgeview Partners. For today's agenda, we're going to highlight activities and activity management. Michael is going to let us know why using activities are important and how to use them. He will then review the best practices and provide tips for activity management, and then finish up activities. He will give a demo on how to automatically create a follow-up task. Then we'll go into the user questions, and then we'll let you know of our upcoming webinars. As with all of our webinars, today's webinar is being recorded and will be available on demand after the live session. All registered attendees will receive an email this afternoon with an access link to the on-demand recording as well as the presentation slides. To ensure the best audio quality for all attendees, we will have everyone in listen-only mode. If you have a question, please submit those in the question pane of your GoToWebinar control panel. We will address as many questions at the end that we can. If time does not permit, we promise to follow up offline. Our support team is available to help with your questions and issues from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Please remember to submit all questions or issues to our general support email at crmsupport@ledgeviewpartners.com or by phone at 920-560-6888. If you need to escalate cases or discuss concerns, please feel free to contact me to discuss. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming back Michael Dodd, Support Consultant with Ledgeview Partners.
Thank you, Christina, for that wonderful introduction. Hope everybody is having a great Tuesday and that your weather is a little bit better than ours turned to. Without further ado, let's jump into some activities. I do want to preface today's webinar that this is a little bit more technical than past webinars have been. It's not too technical, but one of the reasons why we try to make some of these technical is so that you as a user know what is possible within CRM and that your system administrators know how to make these items possible through the work. We always encourage that users and system administrators attend these webinars. So for activities, why are activities important? As a past salesperson, I can speak to, having organization and being organized in your daily job at selling items is critical. And also having that data management, tying everything back together is also critical. But it's always a hard to be able to put both in the same place. That's where activities come in. Activities allows you to streamline your organization with data management. And what that simply means is that you can plan out your day, week, month, year with all the activities you need for an account, contact, or opportunity. And then you can link those activities to those specific records, which is a fantastic tool. You can also coordinate meetings. If you have a meeting coming up with a client and any notes that you take during that meeting can be added to that activity and then associated to that sales opportunity. That way you're never losing your notes or trying to find them in a different location. Activity management. So with all these activities, all these ways to plan your day and your week and year, how do you manage all that? Some different ways to utilize CRM to manage your activities is completing activities in a timely manner. If you're working on items and you made a phone call and you just wait to complete it, it could be that when your manager runs a report to see how everybody's doing with their activities, they're going to ask you to do that. By having your information up to date, it will help your manager and it will help your manager help you keep on top of your items. Create new activities right away. So when you create a new lead or account or opportunity, create those activities right away. So that way your sales process to either qualify a lead or sell the opportunity or follow up with an account are already in there. And you can also generate reports and dashboards that shows your activity completion stats. So how many activities you created versus how many you've closed. That's critical as a manager, but it's also critical as a salesperson to know how you're doing keeping up with those items. I want to jump into some best practices for activity management. When you're working on an activity, set that activity to regard the open opportunity account lead. That way, anything within that activity is linked back to that record, meaning the sales opportunity you're working on, the account you're following up with, or the lead you're trying to qualify. Utilize the priority field. There's a great way to be able to set a to-do list in CRM as a view. So today's to-do list, everything that's due today, and you can sort that by priority. So if you put in the priority of high, medium, and low for all the different activities due that day, you can sort them, work on the most important ones, and finish your day with the lower important items. Use the correct activity type. There's phone calls, phone calls, tasks, emails, appointments. There's a lot of different types of activities. And if you just put everything under task and then say what it is, your manager and you don't have that great view back to what you've spent your day doing. You can see how much of your day is spent on phone calls or emails or tasks. There's a recurring appointment feature. If you have a meeting that's going to occur weekly or daily with a customer that either you're selling an opportunity on or have a project for, utilize that recurring appointment feature instead of having to recreate that wheel and recreate that appointment every single day or week. Use Outlook Client. The Outlook Client add-in is fantastic for tracking emails. It's a simple click of a button. Click the Set Regarding, set it to the opportunity or account. That email is automatically associated to that record. So it's having to copy the email, create the new task in CRM, and copy in the information. It's a huge time saver. Now I'm going to go over some great tips to manage your activities effectively. I'm a big fan of all of these, and utilizing workflows is one that I'm going to go over later in more detail. But utilizing workflows, you can create a workflow to automatically generate activities. So if your opportunity gets to a specific section, meaning a specific sales stage or something specific has occurred, you can have a task automatically generated and assigned to that opportunity owner. That way it saves them the time of creating the activity, and it gives them a reminder to follow up on items. You can also set reminders. So once you have an activity set, you can create a reminder email that goes out to that specific owner saying, hey, this task, this proposal is due to the customer in the next 2 days. You have an appointment occurring tomorrow. It really gives you those reminders. So with all the information and all the things that a salesperson is doing, this is just one less thing they have to remember to do as they have reminders coming to them. If you don't want to automatically create the activity and your salesperson wants, or marketing, or whoever's using CRM to have control over creating that activity, you can simply create a reminder to create that activity. So when you get a new lead, you can have reminders set up, 2 days after that lead's created that says, hey, remember to set your activities for this lead to help qualify. Utilizing calendar. There's a calendar right in CRM. It allows you to track your appointments and your service activities. So instead of having to switch back and forth between your Outlook and CRM to see what you're doing in terms of appointments, if you don't have the Outlook client, you can just go right to this calendar, view your day or your week, and understand what you have going on. Utilize views. I touched on this earlier, setting a daily to-do list. So with your due date, as long as you're setting in that due date, you can set a daily to-do list, sort it by priority, and really manage your day and hit on the most important items first. Utilizing dashboards. You can create a chart to track the activity effectiveness. So how many activities you're creating versus how often you're closing opportunities with multiple activities associated. It would take a little bit of customization to do this, but that is a really great use for managing your activities and how they're doing. You can create a chart to track activity completion timeliness. So you can look at how your activities are doing when they're closed versus when their due date was. So if you're seeing, I'm really not closing my activities until, a couple days after they're due, I need to readjust my strategy to make sure I'm really closing these activities on time. You can also create views and dashboards to organize your daily activities, just like with that to-do list. Now, I've thrown a lot of different activity management ideas and best practices at you. We're going to take a step back. We're going to go into CRM, and I'm going to show you how to set up a workflow that's going to automatically create a follow-up task. So our scenario is, when in the opportunity entity, when the presented proposal field is changed to completed, we're going to generate a follow-up task and assign that task to the opportunity owner. We're going to automatically set the due date for that owner to be 3 days after this task is created, and we're also going to send an email to the opportunity owner of the new task. I know this sounds very complicated, but I'm actually going to show you how easy this is to create in CRM. So from our main drop-down menu, we're going to go into Settings and then into Processes. And we're going to create a new process or workflow. And we're going to name this Follow-Up Task Demo. We're going to set our category as a workflow, and we're going to set our entity to opportunity, because the opportunity is what's going to be triggering this workflow to kick off. The type is going to be a new blank process. So we click OK, and it's going to generate our workflow. It's going to put our process name up here. It's going to activate it as a process. This grayed out box here is saying that run this workflow in the background. What that simply means is when you click Save, in the background, as long as the trigger is taken effect, it will run in the background. You don't have to generate the workflow. And this workflow job retention, I recommend to always uncheck this box, because what that will do is it'll delete all records. So if anything ever fails, you won't have any information to troubleshoot what caused that. And set your scope to organization. That way it won't just occur for this user, but for all users. The start when, that is critical. This tells CRM when to fire the workflow, when to check for items. We're not going to do this when the record is created. We're going to actually do this when a specific record field changes. If you remember from our scenario, we're looking at the presented proposal field. So if we go in here, it's going to look at all fields from opportunity. So we go to presented proposal, check mark it, and click OK. So now we set everything about what our workflow is doing, when it's triggering. Now we want to set what our workflow is actually going to do. We're going to start off with a check condition. So this is going to check if specific conditions are met, then it's going to fire the workflow. So if, and then it's going to have this hyperlink right here. If we click into here, set opportunity. Again, we're looking at that presented proposal field, and we want that to equal completed. So our condition is if the opportunity presented proposal field equals completed, then we want it to create a record. And the record we want to create is a task. So we go to task, and then we do set properties. And from here, we're just going to name this follow-up to presented proposal. And in our description, we're just going to type in, remember to follow up on presented proposal. Because we set this to opportunity as our entity, it's automatically going to regard the opportunity that we've created this task for. Our last thing we want to do is we want to set the due date. And in our scenario, we're looking at setting this due date to be 3 days after this workflow is fired. So we have set to, we're going to go 3 days after, change the local value to this process and the execution time of this process. Click Add. And I'm going to click back on due date just to ensure that this goes in that field. Click OK. So due date is 3 days after the execution time. Click on Save and Close. The last thing that we want to do is we want to also generate an email to this opportunity owner, letting them know that we've created a task for them. So we're going to make sure this insert is an after step, and we're going to do Send Email. Click on Set Properties. We're going to have this email come from the sales manager, Christina. So we're going to put in Christina's name. And the To section, we're going to make this dynamic. We're going to set this to be the opportunity owner. So I'm going to click Add, click back in the To section, and click OK. So now this is always going to come from Christina and always go to the owner of the opportunity it's regarded to. Our subject line, we're going to type in New Task for, and this is the really great thing. It's always going to say in the subject line, New Task for, but we're going to set it to be a dynamic value of the opportunity topic. So it's always going to be New Task for this opportunity who we're creating the email for. So we click back here, click OK, New Task for topic of opportunity. And in the body of our email, we're just going to do hello to the opportunity owner. Again, click Add, click back after hello, click OK. We're simply going to type in a new task has been assigned to you. And we're going to take this one step further. We're actually going to put in a link to this task. So when the email comes to the opportunity owner, all they have to do is open the email, click on the link, and open the task right up for them. This does require a little bit of code, but it's a very small amount, so I'll show you how to write this. So if we type in hyperlink here, and then name, then we're going to do, we're going to go back to look for, and we're going to go to the create task. So that's the task that we're creating. And we're going to change this to task, which is the name. Click Add. I'm going to remove the owner opportunity. Click right here and click OK. We're going to go back one step so it's right next to it. And we're going to keep writing our code. So we're going to do name and then value. And then we're going to add another one, which is the record URL. So right here, we're going to keep this as look for create task. We're going to go back to record URL dynamic. So it's going to link that URL right into the name. Remove the task create, click Add, click back onto our email body, and click OK. If we extend this out, make sure we're right next to it, and we're just going to finish out our code. So we're going to do value again, and then hyperlink. And then to finish our email, we're just going to type thank you. So now our email simply states it's coming from Christina to the owner of the opportunity, and it's going to tell them a new task has been assigned, and it's going to give them a link. So we click Save and Close. We now have our workflow completely set. We want to click Save, and then always remember to click Activate. And sometimes you're going to have these email messages, these messages pop up. You can always contact CRM support. It's usually a browser setting issue that we can help resolve. So if you click on Activate, you want to make sure it gets activated, because if it does not, then it's going to sit in draft status and it's not actually going to complete for you. The way to know that it is activated, the Activate button will change to Deactivate, and you'll have a Close button right here. So we'll click Close. You can see right here, it's in our list and it's activated. So to test this, we're going to create a new opportunity. And we're just going to name this Test WF Demo. And then we're going to click Save. And we're going to change our presented proposal to completed. Click Save. A great way to test if the activity actually came through is to click this little caret drop down and go to Activities. Follow up to presented proposal. So our task created. Now we want to make sure that the actual email sent through. In your scenario, the actual email will go through and you'll be able to talk with the person that was sent to. This is a test environment, so I'm going to go back into, we're going to go back into the actual process workflow and click on Process Sessions and open this up. So you can see that the email is actually created, and this is what the email will look like to the person it was sent to. So it's going to load here for just a minute. Because it's loading a bunch of logic, sometimes it'll take time. It'll show that it's coming from Christina to Mike. I'm the owner. And right here is our link to our task that we created. You click here, it's going to automatically open up our task. So it's going to update this information, open up the task for us. When it's loading, it takes a little bit of time. And there's our task with our due date, 3 days from today. So this is a really great tool that can really save some time. It took us about 10 minutes to create that, but it can save your salespeople immense amount of time for years to come. So let's jump back into our PowerPoint. That's our activity and activity management section. So we're going to jump into some user questions for the remainder of the webinar. Our first question is, how are others using the social pane if it is missing all of the data? This is a very involved question, and what I highly recommend after reading this is that to contact CRM support, is because we would want to take a closer look at this issue and determine how it can be resolved. An option for an immediate workaround is to utilize a subgrid as opposed to the social pane. We still recommend having Ledgeview partners investigate the solution that was utilized in the beginning to see what's causing the issue with the social pane and if it's compatible with the subgrid. We see customers all the time utilizing subgrids more than social panes. Subgrids are much more customizable than social panes. Our next question, is it possible to import leads or contacts from a spreadsheet into a marketing list? I want to stop right there before I read the rest of the question. When a lead and contact is put into a marketing list, they're known as members. And then the rest of the question is, if the lead already exists, the lead should get added to the marketing list. If the lead does not exist, add the lead to the system and also to the marketing list. So that's kind of the scenario that this individual is looking for. But the main portion is, members cannot be imported into a marketing list. You can import contacts, leads, accounts, and then add them to a marketing list, but they can't be added into the marketing list, because if you try to import a marketing list, you're just creating a new marketing list. There are 3 ways, however, to add members to a marketing list. There's 2 static versions. You can utilize an advanced find or utilize a lookup field. However, with static, once it's created, you have to manually go back in and add any additional members. It's not dynamic, so it's not going to always look at those advanced find qualifications to pull new members in. A dynamic marketing list would. You would create the conditions based off of advanced find filtering, and any record that meets this criteria or falls out of this criteria would update the marketing list. So they're always being removed or added based on your conditions. Our next question, is there a way to change the default view on the contact associated activity view from open activity associated view to all activities? And also have the filter default change from next 30 days to all. just to kind of paint the picture for this one, when you're in the context section and you go to the activities related records, it automatically pulls up the open activity associated view. This individual would like to change that to the all activities view. This is possible, however, it does require customization through unsupported JavaScript. We highly recommend you contact us at CRM support, and we can work to have this unsupported JavaScript implemented to achieve this result for you. The reason this requires JavaScript, is because the all activities view is a public view. And this individual is bringing up an associated view. So when you're bringing up an associated view, it's automatically going to bring up a type of associated view and not a public view. Our next question is, what's the best practices for email integration, and are there any other options outside of the Outlook plugin? Great question. I'm going to start off with the best practices. Best practices for the Outlook plugin is to manually track and set regarding all incoming emails. I recommend set regarding if you're going to associate the email to a record like an account, a contact, or a lead, because it'll save you some steps. And use autosync. It's a personal option setting within the Outlook plugin, and set it for the shortest amount of time. In CRM 2016, I've seen 5 minutes, but in most it's usually around 15 minutes. So set it to the shortest amount of time possible, and that way it'll automatically sync with CRM every 5 or 15 minutes. Some other options besides the Outlook plugin is to utilize the CRM email router or server-side sync. This way you can sync emails without utilizing the Outlook client. However, it is a best practice to only use these for outgoing emails, because if you use incoming emails with the email router or server-side sync, it's an all or nothing option when syncing them. And it's typically only used with shared mailboxes. Our next question kind of piggybacks off the last question. Server-side sync or Outlook client, which is best to use with Exchange Online? Server-side sync, again, it's best to be used with outgoing emails. We also recommend turning on token tracking, which puts a little tracking or token number at the end of your subject line for all outgoing emails, and smart matching. It's a CRM option that you can set, and we highly recommend that for server-side sync. The best scenario to use is a combo between Outlook client and server-side sync. So set server-side sync for all outgoing emails and utilize the Outlook client for incoming emails and appointments, contacts, and tasks. We find that people get best results when both options are used together. It's a best practice, again, to manually track or set regard incoming emails in the Outlook client. Our last question for the day is, we're upgrading computers to Windows 10. How do we keep sync working properly during the upgrade without creating duplicate records? The reason this question came about is because when going from CRM 2011 to CRM 2013, with the Outlook client installed back when making operating system upgrades, you would get duplicate records. So we're not seeing this as much anymore, but a way to mitigate this issue is to perform a complete uninstall of the Outlook client, upgrade the computer to Windows 10, then fully install the Outlook client. And that means putting in all current updates or roll-ups depending on the Outlook client that you're reinstalling. Then reconfigure the Outlook client. By uninstalling it, you completely remove syncing, and then once you reconfigure, it's going to pick up and it's in sync right where you left off.
Thank you, Michael, for the great content in the demo. Thank you, users, for submitting those great questions. Have you missed a previous user group webinar? No worries. When you received my email this afternoon, click on the View Webinar on Demand link. In that link, you will have access to today's webinar and presentation slides, as well as the previous month's webinars and presentation slides. Upcoming webinars. Our next Ledgeview CRM user group webinar will be Tuesday, May 17th at 11:30 a.m. Central Time. Our topic will be the Outlook client. We will talk about Outlook for CRM navigation, tracking, and setting regarding for incoming emails. As always, your questions are so valuable to these webinars. Please be sure to submit them at registration or when the webinar reminders are sent. We cannot thank you enough for submitting these questions. Are you interested in learning how Office 365 can interact with your CRM? Join us tomorrow, Wednesday, April 20th, to learn how to combine the Microsoft Office 365 tools with Salesforce or Dynamics CRM. Your employees can achieve their goals across sales, service, marketing, and social, allowing you to connect with your customers and provide amazing customer experiences. In this session, you will learn how these Office 365 and CRM solutions work together to solve business challenges, best practices to ensure that your integration is smooth, and tips that will put your ROI on the fast track. To register, visit ledgeviewpartners.com, click on the green News and Events circle, scroll to Upcoming Webinars section, click on the More Info and Register link, and complete the registration form. Like our user group webinars, all of our webinars are recorded and available on demand. If you register after the live webinar date, you will immediately have access to the on-demand recording. On behalf of Michael and I and all of us at Ledgeview Partners, we would like to thank you for being part of the user group meeting today. We hope you find this webinar valuable and can walk away with a new tip or trick to use. Feel free to provide feedback. We want to continually add value to these webinars. Thanks again for attending. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.